What happens to a Karen who steals her neighbor's mail? She gets arrested. This is a true story of an HOA Karen who thought she was above the law. She lived in a neighborhood governed by an HOA, which is already a red flag. This Karen watched her neighbors' every move, judging them for their lawn height and garbage cans. But she took things to the next level when she started stealing their mail. At first, it was just a few letters and packages that never arrived, but then it escalated to missing bank statements and personal information. One neighbor decided to take action. He contacted the U.S. Postal Inspection Service and set up a sting operation. They placed test letters in his mailbox, which were easily accessible to Karen. And sure enough, she was caught red. The next day, the inspectors confronted her and arrested her. This Karen, who spent months acting like she was above everyone, was now in handcuffs. The other neighbors watched in satisfaction as she was led away. This is a reminder to all of us to respect our neighbors' privacy and not to mess with the mail. The final straw came when John noticed that sensitive documents, like his bank statements, never arrived in the mail. It wasn't just an inconvenience anymore. This was a case of identity theft. And John knew that he needed to take action because mail theft is not a petty neighborhood crime. It is a federal offense. You might not know it, but there is a federal law enforcement agency that protects the mail. They're called the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, and their job is to investigate crimes like fraud and bring mail thieves to justice. And when John contacted them, they were more than happy to help. The postal inspector assigned to John's case was a woman named Dana. She was tough, smart, and determined to catch the person who stole John's mail. With Dana's help, John was able to get his life back on track. But it was a long and winding road that took them from the suburbs of Chicago all the way to the sunny beaches of Miami. The postal inspectors had a brilliant plan to catch a thief. They set up a sting operation in the neighborhood where the thief, John, lived. First, they put decoy letters in his mailbox. These weren't real letters. They were made of cardboard and were designed to be traceable and easily opened. The plan was to put surveillance cameras near the mailboxes and wait for John to make a move. And just a few days later, it happened. Karen, John's wife, casually strolled over to the mailboxes. She checked to see if anyone was around, but she didn't see the cameras or the federal agents watching her. She reached into the mailbox, grabbed the letters, and tucked them under her arm. She was just about to walk away when the agents pounced. They tackled her to the ground and took her into custody. The evidence was clear. She had been caught red-handed stealing mail. The next morning, postal inspectors paid Karen a visit. She opened her front door, probably expecting another uneventful day of policing her neighbors. Instead, she was met with stern faces, badges, and a stack of undeniable evidence. They confronted her with the footage. At first, she tried to deny it. She said that it was a misunderstanding, that she was just checking on things. But the video didn't lie. Within minutes, Karen was in handcuffs, standing in her own driveway as her stunned neighbors looked on. The woman who had spent years bossing everyone around, acting superior, and treating her neighbors like children was now being treated like a criminal. And that's exactly what she was. You're not going to believe what this woman did when she thought nobody was watching. She casually walked over to the mailboxes like she had done dozens of times before. She looked around, making sure no one was watching. Then she slipped her hand into a mailbox that wasn't hers, pulled out the decoy letters, and tucked them under her arm as if nothing had happened. What she did unknow was that every second of her theft was caught on camera and federal agents were watching her live. The evidence was airtight. In another video, we'll show you who she is, why she was doing it, and how she got away with it for so long. You won't believe the lengths the FBI went to in order to catch her! This is part 2. Now on another platform, this Karen got arrested for stealing mail. But before we get to the punchline, here's why this story is actually quite important. First, don't mess with the mail. It might seem like a small thing to steal someone's mail, but the U.S. Postal Service takes it extremely seriously. In fact, stealing mail is a federal crime that can result in hefty fines and even prison time. Second, neighbors notice more than you think. Karen thought she was being so clever, stealing mail from her neighbor's mailbox, and no one would ever know. But all it took was a few missing letters for the neighbors to start paying attention. And finally, the biggest lesson of all. Being a Karen doesn't put you above the law. Acting entitled, bossing people around and crossing boundaries will eventually catch up to you. So what happens next? This nosy HOA Karen stole her neighbor's mail, but it backfired in the best way possible. This woman couldn't keep her eyes off her neighbor's property. She constantly berated them for the way their grass was kept, or how often they watered their lawn. But one day, she took things too far. She stole their mail, which included a letter from the IRS. The crazy thing is, she actually got a kick out of it. She even bragged about it to her friends. Well, karma finally caught up to her when the FBI showed up at her door with a warrant. They had been tracking her every move, waiting for her to open the stolen mail so they could catch her red-handed. She tried to act innocent, but the jig was up. She was arrested, and the neighbors finally got their justice. What do you think? Have you ever had a neighbor like this? Share your stories below. And if you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more. This HOA Karen got way more than she bargained for when she decided to steal her neighbor's mail. The woman was a self-proclaimed busybody who had a nosy habit of opening other people's mail. When the police found out about it, they decided to use her obsession against her. They set up a sting operation where they sent her fake mail with a tracking device in it. The package was addressed to someone else, but Karen opened it anyway, thinking that she was doing her neighbors a favor by checking their mail for them. When the package arrived, Karen took it inside without paying any attention to the tracking device on the outside of the package. That's when the feds raided her house and arrested her for mail theft, which is a federal offense. All of the neighbors were notified and they all showed up to the police station to get their stolen mail back. It took 18 months for Karen to be released from prison. And when she got back, she was forced to move out of the neighborhood and get a new job. Do you think that Karen learned her lesson? Share your thoughts below.